Time is now 7 p.m. on Tuesday, January 14th. Calling back to order the regular January scheduled meeting of the Warwick School Committee. Looking for a motion to seal the minutes of executive session. Made by Ms. Hazelwood.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. There were no votes taken in executive session. We're now on to public comment on agenda items. Individual comments will be respectfully limited to 3 minutes per person, with public comment not to exceed 45 minutes. Though the content of comments will not be restricted, it is the hope of this committee that citizens, committee members, and the administration alike will be respectful of each other's right to speak, tolerant of different points of view, and mindful of everyone's time. This public comment period is for agenda items only. There is a second public comment session available later in the meeting for all other topics or concerns. Members of the public are permitted to speak at both public comment periods. Speakers are asked to state their name for the record, and for those new to our meetings, you are just more than welcome to come down, and after one person finishes, continue on. So, thank you. Ms. Townsend.
It's on now. Good evening, everyone. Mary Townsend, special ed teacher assistant here in Warwick for 42 years and WISE Union president. I had a comment about, I read through the school committee documents, so my comment is specifically about the document that discusses potential cuts. There are a few things on that document that were of concern to me. First and foremost would be the pension reduction. In 2020, as you all know, the school committee then voted to zero out the contribution to the WISE pension. Ever since that time, a full recommended contribution has not been made to the WISE pension. So when I see a figure that says $750,000, I have to assume that that's a good portion of what the contribution should be to our pension fund. So I would ask that you review that. I understand we're in tough times. I really, really do. But some of the decisions will have a drastic effect on our WISE pension, on the Warwick School Committee pension, as it's called, for WISE members and all other members of the district, not in the teachers of the state pension fund. My second concern was, I noticed that it says vacancy. So I would have to, I'm assuming, I'm making a presumption, so it may not be true, but I'm presuming that that may be a WISE position that's not being posted. So I'm just gonna throw that out there because I don't have the details or the information to speak to that exactly. But I saw that and that's what I thought right away. And my final concern would be in seeing the cuts to our maintenance and custodial department that I don't know what those cuts are either, but I'm going to ask that you review those carefully because I also believe that if there's any cuts in that department, in the end, it always falls back on WISE members other than supplies. That's my only other thing that it could be. So I'm hoping that, I know it says potential cuts, and sometimes I like to wait it out and see where things go, but those things really stuck in my head and in my heart today. So I felt like I needed to at least put that out there to you, that all of those, if all of my concerns are accurate or my feelings are true, then it is going to have a drastic effect on WISE members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Julie Connors Costello, Warwick resident, 28 years at Whitman Middle School. My comment tonight is on the last line item, which has to do with virtual learning. I am part of the summer school group, and we use a program called Edgenuity to help with course recovery so students are able to graduate. Now, being at the middle school for as long as I've been, we're kind of stuck in the middle, and students don't always pass the classes that they need to. So then they go on to the high school and, they're just not ready. And I didn't know if there was a way that we could have, at least for math and ELA, course recovery for middle school kids before they move on to the high school. The course, again, is called Edgenuity, and they do have a middle school program. That would be wonderful. So that way, they have a foundation before they leave, and they don't just think that they're going to move on, because they know they're just going to move on. I'd also like to publicly thank School Committee Chair Galligan for helping Windman to get a school resource individual. He's our safety assistant. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the people who voted in favor of having one person, come to Windman to play a part in our day. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Darlene Netko. I'm a lifelong resident of Warwick, a graduate of Warwick Public Schools, a homeowner, a taxpayer who gladly pays her taxes to receive the services that I receive as a Warwick resident. And even though I don't have children of my own, I appreciate the services that the Warwick Public Schools provide to the children of Warwick, because we need a good school system for our future. I'm also president of the Warwick Teachers Union. And the two agenda items I would like to speak about are related. There are two presentations on the agenda for tonight. One has to do with the school ratings from RIDE, and the other has to do with the potential MLL regulation changes also from our good friends at RIDE.
Ms. Necco, I'm going to pause your time for a second. We're actually, I don't know if you want to hold your comments on MLL new regulations until the next meeting. That's going to be tabled this evening. Ms. Sunderland is under the weather and not going to be able to present. So if you want to share those your comments tonight, feel free to do so. Otherwise, that's going to be presented next month. So I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, thanks.
No problem.
I'll mention them again
Thank
next
you.
month. I'll mention
Okay.
them.
Go ahead.
It's, twice as nice, right? So first, regarding the ratings, the way RIDE rates schools. As you can see in the presentation, you will see in the presentation, RIDE looks at a number of factors: graduation rate, state test scores, and so on and so forth. And then for each of those components, RIDE gives a number of stars from 1 to 5. Now, Tollgate High School had mostly 3s with 1, 2. And it's because of that 1, 2, Tollgate is rated a 2. That is because RIDE does not take an average of all the stars. RIDE takes the lowest star. And we have, I was told, maybe about 40 MLL kids at Tollgate, and because they weren't making the progress RIDE says they should make, they were rated a 2. And so we have about 1,200 kids at Tollgate because 40, or maybe fewer than 40, did not score a certain amount on a test. Tollgate is a 2 and not a 3. And I know RIDE wants to revise MLL regulations. They haven't been revised in 17 years. We want our MLL students to receive all of the support that they need in order to succeed. However, what RIDE is intending to do, as it always does, is create a huge unfunded mandate within these regulations. One example.
30 seconds.
All right. Some of you might recall that the state legislature passed the Right to Read Act, which gave RIDE the ability to determine what made someone proficient and what made someone aware by this act. Warwick has spent the last few years, our teachers, especially our elementary and our K through 12 special ed, in complete chaos and distress trying to meet these requirements. And now RIDE wants to turn around and make the same kind of system in place for MLL. Teachers would either have to be aware, or if you're a core teacher, be proficient. So are we going to have to spend another 180 hours, you know, the equivalent of a graduate degree now for MLL, and with no funding from RIDE, and no support from RIDE, and no professional development time from RIDE? So just some things to think about, because I went to West Warwick High School last night to make a public comment
Ms. Necco.
about this, and I urge,
Thank you.
because January 20th is the deadline, that PowerPoint that's in the public documents for tonight's meeting, there's a link on there. You can go and make a public, you can make comments to RIDE.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Seeing none, I'd also like to take a brief moment to welcome this evening. We have the councilman from Ward 5, Councilman Ed Lattiser, and we also have present here this evening the councilman from Ward 6, Mr. Bill Muto. So thank you both for coming this evening. We're now on to recommended actions, routine matters. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of public session on December 10th, 2024.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Testa. Seconded by Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Looking for a motion for the approval of minutes of executive session on December 10th, 2024.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Ms. Hazelwood. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Motion for approval of minutes of executive session on December 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Looking for a motion for approval of transfers January 14th, 2025.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Looking for a motion for approval of warrants January 14th, 2025.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. We're now on to announcements, personnel as presented. Ms. Ruggieri.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the school committee. Tonight I have one retirement for your vote. We have Norman Boothlier, a social studies teacher at Windman with 35 years of service with Warwick.
Looking for a motion to approve the retirement as presented.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, and we thank Mr. Bouthier for his service to Warwick. And we have 3 resignations that also require a vote. First, Despina Dyko, Assistant Principal of Teaching and Learning at Warwick Vets Middle School. Stephanie Hozempa, Social Worker at Welk. And Corey Boudreau, a Master Mechanic in the Maintenance Department.
Looking for a motion to approve the resignations as presented.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, and we have our courtesy announcements to welcome some new employees to the district. First off, we have Christopher Russo, Social Worker at Wyman Elementary and District Float. Joshua Bland, Biology General Science Teacher at Pilgrim High School. Allison Stromolo, Kindergarten Teacher Assistant at Sherman Elementary. Patricia Solis Vasquez, Special Ed One-on-One Teacher Assistant at Pilgrim High School. Gabandi Monterville, Special Ed One-on-One Teacher Assistant at Pilgrim High School. Michelle Legault, Kindergarten Teacher Assistant at Cedar Hill Elementary School. Mary Ann Hunt, Secretary at Warwick Neck Elementary School. Savannah Hurd, Teacher Assistant at Cedar Hill Elementary School. Javier Milan, Night Custodian at Windman Middle School. And Biavendo Martinez, Night Custodian at Windman Middle School. Welcome to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jerry, and welcome to all the new personnel joining Warwick Public Schools.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Mr. Testa.
Thank you to Ms. Ruggieri. And some of these appointments, are these some that we may have approved last month? And this is the formalization of that?
Yes, many of them are retirements from the WISE union that were at the end of December, and these are the people that are filling those positions from retirements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All set, yield, Mr. Tess? Any other comments or questions regarding? Okay. This evening, there are no donations or correspondence, and there are no adoption of policies for us to review. We're now on to new business. First item, discussion presentation, ride accountability ratings, as presented by Dr. Schultz.
Thank you, everyone. It is my pleasure to talk about something that Ms. Netco did a great job of introducing. I'm going to just take a little more detail and delve into it a little bit more, but a lot of this you can, if you're interested in it, you can find online. It's all available for public consumption. Ooh, I don't know what it just did. Oh, wrong button. That's why. Sorry, everyone. All right. So what are the accountability ratings? Well, some people call them the school report cards or the district report card, one and the same. But RIDE assigns a 1 through 5 star rating to every school in the state. And you can look up any school that you're interested in. Most elementary schools, they're typically 3-star. Secondary schools are typically 2-star. And like Ms. Netco did say, schools are only rated as high as their lowest star. We will see Tollgate as an example in this slide deck in just a minute. The data does combine 2 years to come up with the ratings. So it's combining data that might be from students that have already left the schools. So keep that in mind. With all the improvements that we have made, we will continue to see these scores rise. Why do we have them? Well, RIDE does want to track the school progress and achievement gaps. They also want to learn more about the schools making gains and help the schools that are struggling. For example, if you are a 1-star school, they wind up going in and helping if you need it. And they will assign certain schools different categories called TSI or ATSI, where it's basically targeted supports. They will come in and help in areas where you might need it. Some of the areas that are typically targeted are students with disabilities across the state. That is an area where people are struggling. We're trying to improve things for students with disabilities, and it is one area where we're not making as many gains across the state as we would like to see. So that's just one example. The ratings focus on many different things. One example is student performance on state testing. That's RICAS, PSAT data, SAT data for our high schoolers. The growth rates, very important. The scores for subgroups of students like our MLL students, graduation rates, suspension rates, the amount of students in AP classes, the amount of students in CTE classes, et cetera, and absenteeism not just for students, but for staff members too. Where can you find that information? Well, if you want to Google it, it's super easy to find and really easy to navigate as well, so you can dig in at any time. All right, so I'm pleased to show you our district results here. And so you see a different array of bars going across the screen. It says that it's mid-level performance in all of them, but we are right on the cusp of the strong performance on all of them. It is our goal to make sure that every single one of those bands is dark blue within the next 5 years. That's it. We're going to do it, and we're on the way. We increased by 3 points overall from last year, which is great news. That's not easy to do. We improved on our ELP scores, which is our English Language Proficiency Score, that's our MLLs. Diploma Plus measures, that's for our students that are graduating, and all the different categories that they can fall into that helps boost our score up, and our school quality and student success measures. Here's a mathematics example. So it has a lot of different information, and you can see that overall our math growth, we're right in the middle, and you can see the different bands. If you look, the vertical lines that are cutting down on the bar graph on the right-hand side basically tell you the cutoff scores. And so if every one of those bands was above that last vertical line, then we would have been strong performance, and we're not that far off from that. But that's why we got a 2 in this area. All right, so school results. We have some great things going on. Our elementary schools are mostly 3s. So right there, right at the district, right at the state average, excuse me. However, we now have a lot of schools that are on the cusp of greatness. Robertson Elementary for the first time, Greenwood Elementary, and Holloman have made so much growth that they're right on the cusp of being a 4. We're talking within a point or 2 away from it. These are things that we can definitely see in the next couple of years, if not next year. Scott School remains strong as a 4-star school. It is actually almost a 5-star school at this point. So not only are they hanging on to that amazing forward movement, but they keep getting better and better, which is what we want to see. Wyman did drop a little bit down to a 2, but it's right on the cusp of a 3 this year, and Oakland Beach is staying strong again on the cusp of being a 3. We have to remember that 2 years ago, Oakland Beach was a 1-star school, so this is massive forward movement for Oakland Beach. We're very proud of that. Overall, our ratings went up. Lippett Elementary School went up to a 3. Amazing job, Lippett. They were on the cusp of a 1 just last year. So the fact that they were able to move that much in 1 year, I've never seen anything like it. So kudos to the staff, kudos to the students, and to the administration over there. Secondary schools, we're all 2s across the board except for Windman, but Windman Middle School is now a 3-star school, which puts Windman in a more elite category. It's not typical for our schools across the state to be 3-star when they're middle school. It's not easy, honestly, to move secondary schools. It's a little bit more difficult, but all of our schools are on the cusp of a 3-star rating at this point, and I just wanted to say how proud we are of all of our schools, but specifically for Windman Middle School and for Lippett. They have done so many wonderful things. Our district results, I think I went the wrong way again. My goodness, it's like Groundhog Day. All right, school example. So this is Tollgate, and as you can see, this is what Miss Netco is referring to. You can see that, that bright orange color. We don't like that color. Nope, that's that focus area. Now the problem is, Tollgate is a big school, right? And so these other bands here, that's capturing all the great things that are happening, and we have a very small segment of our population. It said that overall 54 students were included, and that's over 2 years. That's 27 on average students per year that are in this band for English language proficiency, because they didn't make the growth or the achievement that they're looking for at RIDE. That is why it is rated a 2-star school overall, but you can see that we're doing very strongly across the other bands, and we're definitely going to get there to a 3-star. And all of our other schools, same thing, secondary schools, we were only off by 1 category. And depending on the district, you might not even see an ELP band. And so it's really hard to compare apples to oranges if certain schools don't even have that many MLL students. So they're not even looked at in this same way. I just wanted to put that out there. Moving forward, we're being very specific and targeted about our focus areas. As always, we're tracking our student data and progress, incentivizing initiatives for our students, analyzing what works constantly, and goal setting with school leaders. We have 3 goal setting meetings coming up over the next couple weeks we're very excited about. We're continuing to use student discourse and data chats where students are actually setting their own goals, which aligns very nicely to our vision of a graduate, and personalizing instruction for students at all levels, but at their just right levels to push them forward, no matter if they're a struggling learner, if they're in that just right area, or if they're our advanced learners. We want to make sure that we're challenging every student where they are. And that's it for me. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Dr. Schultz. I'll open it up to the committee if anybody has any questions or comments. Mr. Testa.
I always have comments about this. Thank you, Dr. Schultz. And I'll echo what Ms. Necco said. This star rating system is extremely misleading, extremely. And the part that frosts me the most about it is that's what people look at, right? That's what many of the social media ignoramuses look at when they say, yes, school's a two. So you have Tollgate, which, as you said, has 1,100 to 1,200 kids. For the sake of 40 or 50 students, it's a 2. If anybody had a performance review in their job where you're only as good as your lowest score, you won't like that too much. And interesting to note that last year Central got knocked down a score, and they screamed bloody murder, and the RIDE had to revise the whole scoring system a little bit too. So, you know, it's not a reflection of your school district at all. And what you mentioned, you look at Barrington, they don't have an MLO component. They don't have enough kids. So how can you possibly compare district to district if you're not measuring on the same metrics? You can't. You have to realize that it's not apples to apples. And districts, and I'm not going to steal the thunder from the MLL presentation for next month, but historically we've underreported MLL kids. We're not doing that anymore. So as we've seen almost a 3 times growth in the number of MLL kids, and they require different resources. So you have to staff up to that. You have to find the money for that as well. So, you know, people, like I said, will take the star rating, just like they take the U.S. News and World Report of the world's best high schools, and use that, but they don't know what they're even using. And I just want to give a shout out to Winman, because you are exactly right. At the middle school level, if you look across the state, you didn't see a lot of 2 to 3s movements in the middle schools. So I just want to thank you for the work you're doing. And I'll say it again, I've said it before, my hope is that, you know, things that are being done at Winman, things that are being done at Lippet, we share them throughout the district, so you take what works, right? It's R&D, it's rip off and duplicate, and then and you apply it, right? We can't be too proud, if we're in a particular building, can't be too proud to say, no, that's not going to work here. It works elsewhere, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Any other comments? Mr. Wiggins.
Gonna give this a shot. I want to give a huge shout out to Lippet. That's a huge accomplishment. Not saying that because I have special commitment, relationship there, but they really worked hard. It was really great to see that. Winman as well. They're doing a great job. Seeing this for the first time too is, you know, I'm educating myself in all of this, and I'm with Mr. Testa. I look at those the tollgate numbers and Ms. Netco as well. It's hard to see, you know, them not being a successful school. But, you know, I understand that, you know, nothing and nobody in this room can change it. But I did want to, you know, congratulate all the schools, Scott, all the elementary schools for maintaining. But for Lippet to go to a 1 to a 3, that's phenomenal. So just wanted to, and I wanted to speak once. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll echo everything my 2 colleagues just stated. Shout out to Scott, Lippet, and Winman. Great job, great progress. Looking forward to seeing what the other schools will do in this year here. I will also, I share in the sentiments of Mr. Testa, the ride rating, star rating system. It's great. It's nice to have benchmarks and measurements and to kind of gauge to see how you're performing. But the system itself is flawed. It's the fact that they can only take one little snippet and pull down everything in terms of how you evaluate a school. It's not appropriate in my eyes. It's not a good measurement to determine if a school is an adequately performing school or not. But it's great to see that we've identified a very targeted, or we've created a very targeted plan based on those focus areas. So I'm very much looking forward to what we accomplish here in the 24 to 25 school year. Again, I share in everything that my colleagues have stated, so rather than drag it on, I'll leave it with that. So, any other comments? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Just so that way everything is nice and clean. And for the record, I'm going to make a motion that we table item 2, discussion presentation, MLL new regulations at the request of Dr. Schultz.
So moved.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 2 has been tabled. Item number 3, discussion update. Warwick Special Education Advisory Committee update from Ms. Cardillo.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer Cardillo, parent of a senior at Tollgate High School. Always seems really weird to say that my daughter has reached her senior year. Just absolutely amazing. And also the chair of the Warwick Special Education Advisory Committee. During our December meeting, we had the nice opportunity to have Mary Herman from the Rhode Island Department of Health speak to the committee about the Rhode Island Special Needs Emergency Registry, which assists with emergency preparedness. The Special Needs Registry is for Rhode Islanders who require additional assistance, such as someone with chronic conditions, access or functional needs, or mobility concerns. Individuals can self-identify or register their family and friends with their consent. Municipalities throughout the state, including police and fire and EMS, are using the registry to support those individuals who decide to register. They have access to secure data and a secure list to provide that support. And there's also additional preparedness and emergency response features that are available to help those units to check in with registrants during emergency situations. I think all of us are in a situation where we never know what's going to happen, and it was really nice that Mary took the time to come to speak to all of us with a population that is very interested in that. In fact, we had a physician who was on the line during our meeting who said they had never even heard about the service and was looking really forward to sharing that information with their patients and was reaching out to get more details from them. So this is the type of information that we'd like to share at our meetings, and we're hoping that we can continue to provide that service. There were also a few recognitions. Lindsay Hong, who's a special educator at Oakland Beach, was recognized. One of the attendees noted that she had been her daughter's teacher for the past 3 years. She had really seen her strengths and who she truly is, and was glad to have someone who really knows her and accepts her as she is. The Pilgrim and Tollgate Unified Volleyball teams were also recognized at the December meeting. They had just finished their season, and we wanted to congratulate all of them for participating and bringing joy to a lot of folks who went to see their games. Overall, the meetings have been going fairly well. We continue to encourage parents and teachers to attend, to let their voices be heard, to learn more about district policies and directions, and share any concerns they have. It's pretty common after our meetings for parents and teachers to stay afterwards to talk to the leadership, to talk to the school committee members who attend, so that they can continue to voice those concerns in private and in public during the meetings too, whatever's appropriate. And we just want to make sure that everyone knows they have that voice. Now, thank you for letting me attend tonight, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions from members of the committee for Ms. Cardillo? I just want to say, over the past several months, one of your goals or objectives when I first met you and got onto the school committee was that you were really trying to expand the outreach of WESAC and let parents, similar to myself, who have children with IEPs or possibly 504s or in need of just understanding, you know, how to bring a child up within the school district that might require special services. I've really seen a lot of people over the past several months start to see WESAC, hear about WESAC, and hear how they've been supported by WESAC or educated by WESAC. So I just personally want to thank the Special Education Advisory Committee for everything that you guys have been doing. I'm happy to see that one of your objectives for that committee, you know, coming to success and growing, and I look forward to it continuing to grow, especially with our increasing population of students requiring special services. So thank you for everything.
Well, thank all of you, because we wouldn't be successful without the support from the school committee and from you giving us the opportunity to continue to be heard and to appear at meetings like this so that everyone can hear what's going on, not just, you know, those who attend the call. So definitely, absolutely thrilled that you've done that.
No problem. It was my pleasure, and for everyone's knowledge in the public, the next Warwick Special Education Advisory Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 26, 2025 at 6 p.m. And Ms. Cardillo, where is that being held?
That will be held at the Warwick Public Library. There is a pretty strong chance that we will sneak in another meeting just to have some additional listening towards the end of January. If we're able to pull that off, then we will be publicizing that via email on our committee page and also via our Facebook page.
Great. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Okay.
Nope.
Right.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Next item on the agenda, Item number 4, discussion update FY 2025 monthly financial report and year-end review. Mr. Bull.
Good evening. Good evening. Well, it's loud. Good evening, school committee chair. I've provided everybody with the December monthly fiscal report. As always, please reach out to me if you have specific questions on any expenses or revenue line items within that report. Also, just wanted to highlight a few other things within the department. Yesterday, we sent the instructions for the fiscal year 26 budget process to budget managers. As anybody would be anticipating, there will be, I don't want to say cuts to expenses, but expenses will have to be lower to address the issues we're experiencing in fiscal year 25. So just to be anticipating that. I believe during the employee spotlight, an employee in my department, Carlisle Vincent, was highlighted. I would just like to say from fiscal year 21, 22, 23, 24, RIDE has noted deficiencies in reporting and reimbursement in our grants. And in the past 3 to 4 months, she's done a tremendous job in cleaning things up, and RIDE has commented on how the reporting's more timely, our reimbursements are being submitted more timely. So thank you to her. Also want to thank Kayla Quirk in my department, our non-instructional services coordinator. We're down to accounting bodies right now in my department, and she has stepped in to help with just about everything, including the budgeting process. So just want to thank her as well. I don't want to step on the superintendent's toes too much because I know that she has some budget comments to make during her statement. But just wanted to highlight that we've been meeting with the city weekly and met with the Auditor General for the first time yesterday, and those conversations have been productive when it comes to addressing the budget situation that we're currently in. And we're also working on a corrective action plan over the next 5 years to try to address this issue. I thought I had one other thing. One item I did want to say or emphasize is that the projections that have been put out there, the projections I put together, the projections that an independent consultant put together, are a picture of a worst case scenario. So this is, if we do nothing to change spending within the district, this is where we could end up. Everything we're doing, including the cuts that are put on the table tonight, are to address that number in order to bring it lower. And I think everybody here in school committee, the administration is committed to making sure that that number is as low as possible. And so I just wanted to emphasize that. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Any members of the committee looking to comment? I'll just respond to one comment that Mr. Bull made, and that is in regards to the FY25 projected deficit, and the superintendent is going to touch on it here momentarily. So we met with the mayor the other day and his staff, and then immediately thereafter we met with the council president and a councilman from Ward 5, who is now the finance chair of the city council, as well as the councilman from Ward 9, Mr. Gebhardt. And we've been very clear throughout this whole ordeal, even meeting with RIDE on Monday this past week. The deficit, as Mr. Bull pointed out, is a projection. Essentially looking at, here's how much we budgeted for, here's our rate of spend, and then obviously as we add in new positions or identify needs throughout the year that are unbudgeted for, that trajectory goes up, and it goes up higher than what we budgeted for. So we are projecting a $9 million deficit. However, that is if we do nothing. So the first action, obviously, that was taken after fiscal subcommittee and with the support of Mr. Bull and the administration was freezing discretionary spend, because that's really the only area this committee can kind of address. Everything else is contractual or legal. The second item that we did was we brought in those outside financial consultants to then work with Mr. Bull while he reconciled FY24, they evaluated the FY25 circumstances. And then that's when they kind of stated, yes, if you do nothing else, this is where you can kind of sit. So tonight before this committee, we do have, I'll call them, they're on here as budget cuts, but I like the word amendments. It seems a little bit kinder. We have some budget amendments, some line item reductions that we need to make. They're difficult decisions. And I don't want to lie to the general public tonight and say that this is it. Tonight is the only time we'll make amendments to our budget. There's likely going to be another 2 or 3 rounds of these amendments. I believe in transparency, open, honest government, and we're going to give that here to you tonight as this committee, that there's going to be other reductions that we're going to be needing to be taken. And as dark and dreary as that sounds as we kick off the new year, I would be lying to you if I stated that I'm very concerned about FY25. I'm actually more concerned about FY26. I'm more concerned about FY27 and FY28. And the reason for that is, for those that follow what's going on at the State House, FY26, for the state, they're facing a $330 million deficit for the state. And RIPEC put out a report, and they evaluated the state funding formula for education. They identified how it needs to be sustainable and equitable. And so when you look at that, and then you look at the situation the state is in, you can immediately start to think, well, maybe that means the state appropriation might not be as strong in FY26. Locally, the city, as we move forward towards construction of new high schools here in the month of March, the city's going to need to start to pay on the bonds. And so that could mean an impact to local appropriations. So again, now we come down a little bit further. We have 2 contracts to fund in the upcoming fiscal year, so come down a little bit more. So the finance department and the administration already has to make up presumably all of that ground before we even get going. So that's what's keeping me up at night right now, not FY25, because I'm confident that this committee, in working in collaboration with the administration, as well as the council and the mayor's office, we'll be able to put our heads together and address the situation that we're in, and we'll be able to right the ship. But FY26 is going to be very difficult. Though these cuts that we're going to be discussing in a few moments here or amendments are difficult ones, just know we still have a few more difficult circumstances to overcome between now and when this committee ratifies our FY26 budget come May and then June. So that's all I have on FY25. Anyone else? Did I miss anything? Cool. Next item on the agenda is discussion update, capital and construction project status update. Unfortunately, Mr. Gothberg is unable to attend tonight, and Mr. Ifrady as well, for personal reasons. So I would be looking for a motion from this committee to table item 5.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood and Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0 to table item number 5. Next item, item number 6, high school project update, as presented by Left Field.
Sorry. Good evening, John Bates with Left Field. So I'll start my monthly update with talking about a bit of a surprise that we had come up in December. We have some wetland areas on site at Tollgate. That's not the surprise. We know about those. But proceeding with the construction project requires on that site with wetlands a permit application with the Department of Environmental Management. In addition to stormwater construction applications, during a pre-permitting review meeting that we had with DEM, they had changed their initial opinion of the level of the review that they need, stating that it looks like the impacts of the design might require a full wetlands permit review that could take at least a year before a permit would be issued. Obviously, that's a very dramatic impact to the schedule. That's compared to if we were granted a variance, which is what we were initially told by them. That was the likely path forward. That's only a 2 to 3 month review period for that permit. That obviously aligns with our current schedule. So give much credit to the design team. They quickly came up with a small reconfiguration to the asphalt area at the northwest area of the new building design. So that further avoids the wetlands area in question. DEM has already been presented this new scheme. They've expressed their approval of the new layout. We are confident that the review process will be downgraded to a variance review, which again is that 2 to 3 month review period that aligns with our schedule. That's what we originally expected. We think there's an additional benefit to this new layout. We think that this could bring some more cost savings. It's a more efficient layout. There's definitely a reduction in asphalt, about an acre's worth, I believe. So as of this evening, we have submitted permit applications to DEM for the construction permitting for the demolition of Drum Rock, the Drum Rock building, and for the site clearing for the areas surrounding Drum Rock. That's to start mobilizing in March for the demolition of that building. We've also submitted a stormwater construction permit application for Pilgrim. So this is all in preparation for the construction mobilization, which I think, as we said at the last meeting, is to commence in the middle of April and then in the beginning of May for Tollgate. So, in past reports, I have talked about the ongoing soil evaluation at both sites. The public records phase of the analysis did not reveal anything unusual or problematic in terms of contamination. But the team has discussed and agreed that doing some limited soil sampling on both sites to confirm exactly what is there will benefit us in the long run. It mitigates the risk that in mid-construction, if we were to need to, say, export some quantity of soil off-site, already being prepared to do so with the requisite paperwork, having that at the ready would mean that we wouldn't have to stop work mid-construction to deal with DEM and the paperwork to get that soil off-site. That would be somewhat catastrophic if we were to deal with that. So again, we wanted to confirm and verify what is on site now in terms of contamination, if any. And that exploration work on site is currently planned for the vacation week of the 17th of February when no school is in session. So, in terms of cost and budget, we will have our next round of cost updates by the end of this month. And in terms of schedule, as I said, still on track for mobilization at Pilgrim the third full week of April, the 21st, week of the 21st, and then 2 weeks later at Tollgate, the first full week of May. So, and that completes my update. Any questions?
Any questions from members of the committee? Ms. Hazelwood?
Yeah, so will you have that update for us at the forum on the 28th, the next round of cost?
It's, we're going to make every attempt to have both. You're talking about the cost updates, to have both at the ready. It depends on us being able to have a reconciliation meeting with the two estimators prior to that. So I can't guarantee that we'll have the final numbers, but we are making every attempt to have that information available.
Will you be able to give us a general?
Yeah, I can, and I mean,
close to?
We could probably give you an approximation, and I think I even said at the last meeting, it is pointing at a lower variance than what we had told you several months ago. What that means is that the value management processes we've been going through the last few months are bearing fruit. The market itself hasn't changed. The cost per square foot still are what they are, like we told you back in September, but it is trending downwards. We'll hopefully tell you exactly, not exactly, but we'll tell you what it's looking like as of this phase at the end of this month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hazelwood. Any other comments from members of the committee? Mr.
Chair,
Testa.
thank you, Mr. Bates. Quick question. The wetlands issue, is that a separate issue from the Land and Water Conservation Funds issue that?
It is indeed a separate issue, yeah.
Okay.
And
Is that-
I wouldn't call it an issue. Referring to the Land and Water Conservation Fund, it's simply a reallocation of land resources that's needed to happen within the city, which we're in the process of doing.
Right, and that one, we worked with the city planner on that. He was.
Exactly.
Yep, exactly. So the wetlands thing is again, DEM changes course. And in response to that, you mentioned it was Secocia, right? That was their
right,
team,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
So they devised something that appears to be acceptable to DEM.
It
It
appears
results.
acceptable to DEM. It's acceptable to RIDE. We've already presented it to Dr. De Silva at RIDE.
Yeah.
And again, it stands to present a little bit of cost savings potentially. So in the aggregate, I think it's a win.
Yeah, and I think you said it was about an acre or less of asphalt?
That's right.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the committee? Seeing none. My only comment would be less of a question, more of a comment. As my colleague, Ms. Hazelwood, had mentioned, the forum is being held here January 28th. It's I believe a Tuesday at 6 p.m. It's 6 to 8, roughly a 30-minute presentation from left field, our OPM, and then we're going to open it up to questions from members of the community. So that meeting will be live streamed via YouTube. For those that are unable to physically attend, but certainly please come. And you could still use the warwickhsprojects.com webpage to submit questions and get answers in real time. So thank you, Mr. Bates.
Thank you.
We are now on to item number 7, discussion update, superintendent update. Ms. Danbrook.
Good evening, school committee, members of the community. I come before you tonight to address the pressing and concerning issue of our budget deficit and provide an update of the actions being taken to respond. While the situation is undeniable, difficult, I am confident in our ability to meet it head-on with diligence, transparency, collaborations, and clear steps forward. I want to assure you that addressing this deficit while keeping our students at center is my highest priority. We are working in full compliance with state law, closely collaborating with the Rhode Island Auditor General to develop a comprehensive correction plan. Just yesterday, I participated in a productive meeting along with my administrative team with the Auditor General and his staff, alongside with Mayor Bacozzi and Finance Director Peter Schaefer. Discussions yesterday led to several promising ideas, and I look forward to sharing actionable updates in the coming days. Their guidance and collaboration will play a critical role in helping navigate this process while complying with all legal and fiscal requirements. I understand the concerns surrounding how this deficit arose, and we are conducting a thorough investigation to uncover its root cause. While we have some hypothesis, it is too early to share the specifics, as premature conclusions could lead to misinformation. There are often unforeseen and unbudgeted large expenses. For instance, just this week, a septic tank failed at Scott Elementary School. We will be replacing the septic tank. The project, we're getting quotes right now, and the project seems to come in the excess of $250,000. Now, this was an unbudgeted expense. I want to emphasize that my team is committed to ensuring our findings are grounded in accuracy and basing our actions on accurate and comprehensive data. I ask for your patience as we continue this important analysis. Since identifying the deficit, we have taken initial steps to stabilize our financial position. My administrative team and I have been extremely hard at work. We are carefully evaluating current expenditures, identifying areas where cost reductions can be made with minimal impact on students. We're exploring long-term structural changes as well. Their expertise will help guide us through the difficult time. However, I must emphasize that the difficult decisions lie ahead. For extra support, we are retaining the services of 2 individuals with extensive municipal and school department finance experiences. Addressing this deficit will require changes and choices that prioritize the core mission of the schools while responding to serious fiscal circumstances. As for when you receive a draft of the proposed budget reduction, I ask for your understanding. We are committed to developing a responsible plan guided by the framework established by the Auditor General. I recognize the angst and stress that comes along with budget reductions and the current unknowns, but it's critical that this process is done thoroughly. Once the plan is sufficiently developed and incorporates the necessary input, we will present it to you. In closing, I want to stress the importance of collaboration and patience. And most importantly, Warwick Public Schools has a history of resilience and strength. The challenges that we face are significant, but I am confident that together we can address this deficit in a manner that ensures continued strength of the district.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any comments or questions for the Superintendent from members of the committee? Seeing none. We are now on to item number 8, discussion action FY 2025 budget cuts, amended budget. Ms. Danbrook.
Yes, before, I'd like to recommend some round 1 of potential budget cuts. And I will read them individually, or you're going to vote on them individually?
Yeah, I read them collectively first.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so these are the items, the first round that we identified. Lunch bills, student lunch bills for $25,000. A vacancy, there is an assistant principal here at Vets that will be leaving soon, so instead of filling the position, we will hire someone per diem to help out at Vets. The fuel oil cut, $65,275, that would be the savings. Fuel oil cut, Mr. Oliver has worked with us and has looked at historic spending on fuel oil, and he feels that we can cut it $100,000. Tennis courts is a cut of $200,000, and the city generously offered to provide the money for the tennis courts. Building improvement line. This line is for $275,000, and it's all of our budget managers got together, looked at their budget, and made cuts. Maybe it's something that they can wait another year to do, but they made cuts of $275,000. That was a lot of work, so thank you. Pay-go for $500,000. The WISE pension contribution for $750,000. Cuts by directors updated $928,556, and Nest. Nest is a program in athletic trainers that we have at all our games to protect our students. So we did receive a grant to cover one of the athletic trainers, so that saves us $40,000. So the total savings is $2,883,831.
Thank you, Superintendent. I'd be looking for a motion to move approval.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. We'll open it up for discussion here. Mr. Bowl, could you just please, for the public's knowledge, what would the WISE pension be funded, like, what is the fiscal health of the WISE pension as of today, and what could it possibly look like with this reduction?
So I've had several discussions. We engage with a firm called USI. That is the actuarial firm that provides us evaluation for the pension on an annual basis. So I've had discussions with them recently about what the current level funded is in the pension. Right now, the pension is funded at 83%. Just for perspective, there's a lot of pensions in the state that are funded at 25%. So it's a very healthy pension. And we've also provided the actuary with a number of different scenarios. One of them being this scenario: if we cut the pension contribution by $750,000, what percent funded will the pension be at the end of fiscal year 25? They're preparing those numbers right now, so they promised a response by the end of the week. But again, the pension itself is very healthily funded, and I would just say that every year they provide a valuation that says, in order to maintain benefit payments, this is the amount the school district needs to pay on an annual basis. So say that amount is $1 million. If we decide that we're only going to pay $500,000, the $500,000 that we shorted the pension has to be paid back over 20 years. That's called amortization. You can just call it the spreading of the cost of that $500,000. So it's not that we will never contribute the $750,000 that we're cutting here tonight. It's that $750,000 will then be spread over the next 20 years. You don't want to get into the habit of making steep cuts multiple years in a row, because then you're just increasing your liability over time. But again, the pension is in a very healthy position, and I think that spreading $750,000 over 20 years is a way for us to free up short-term money right now in order to fix, or do our best to fix, the fiscal situation in fiscal year 25.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Ms. Hazelwood.
The line that says cuts by directors, are anything here, is anything staffing related?
No, there's no staffing on this list of cuts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hazelwood. Any other comments from members? Ms. Hazelwood, you.
No, go.
Ms. Kirby Chapman.
Well, because I don't even know the cuts by directors. Can you give examples of where those numbers came from? It doesn't have to be all of them, but like.
I think you received a spreadsheet of each cut.
Certified dollars, but that's, so some of it's technology, some of it's curriculum.
And then the building improvement line, what are we putting off?
So that would be Director Oliver's line, and he's cutting back on improvements. If an emergency happens and we have to call in to get repairs, that comes from Mr. Oliver's building improvement line.
You mean like Scott School?
Yes.
So I would just add too that we reinstalled the kilns at the secondary level, and we received a state grant for arts initiatives, and so that grant can be used to fund those projects. So we're going to use the grant funds to pay for it rather than the building improvement line, in addition to what the superintendent just said.
Do you yield? Yep. Okay.
I was just going to
Ms.
also
Hazelwood.
make a point of saying that thanks to the city, we saved $200,000 for those tennis courts. So that's a big deal, because people have been asking for refurbishment of those courts for a long time, and we had it here, and thankfully the city is taking over for that. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you, Ms. Hazelwood. Mr. Wiggins.
I am also grateful for that. I concur with Ms. Hazelwood on that matter.
Thank you.
Can't say anything else.
Mr. Testa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Mr. Bowl. Just, you know, I looked at the spreadsheet and I broke it out by what department, how the cuts are by department. And facilities is a third of this. It's $305,000. And of that, a quarter of it, $80,000, is for replacement of zero-turn mowers and no longer replacing them. So, second largest department that's affected is technology at $195,000. So none of this is easy. It never has been. In my 8 years when we have to do this, it's never been easy. And if you look down on the spreadsheet, some of these amounts are what you find when you turn over the couch cushions. But I have to say that I think at its core, this problem is a personnel issue. It's a headcount issue. And the fix is going to be a headcount issue. There's no getting around that. There isn't. So when we come out of this on the other side, I would expect that internal processes will be tighter. We'll have new ones. I know we have a new fiscal reporting system that will help, but the reporting system doesn't solve the problem. We're going to have to make some structural changes here. And I don't want to be a black cloud, but we're going to have to do that, starting with FY26, and then in the out years. So I don't know what the exact solutions are. Unfortunately, that's for you guys to figure out. But I have to say that come the spring, when we're putting the budget together, or you're putting the budget together, speaking for myself, you can expect a different line of questioning from me than I have normally done in the past. And it's not to scold, but I have to say, in my 8+ years here, this hit me in the face like a 2x4. So we need to know how we got here. I've got suspicions, but I'm not gonna say what my suspicions are. I trust Mr. Bowl and your department and your staff and the superintendent and everybody on board to find it, identify it, and fix it. And it's not going to be easy. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Any other comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor of the FY 2025 budget cuts and amended budget, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Seeing none, motion carries 5-0. Next item number 9, discussion action, wise termination. Be looking for a motion to uphold the superintendent's recommendation.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Ms. Tedeschi, after those 2 difficult items there, you ready to have a little fun? All right, let's spend some grant money. If there's no opposition from my colleagues, I'd be looking for us to do a little bit of a flow thing like progressive, and let's put it all together. Let's bulk it, package it up. Item 10, flex roll foam mats for cheerleading. Item 11, 3T Enterprises, more equipment for the cheerleading team. Cisco. Item 13, Boys and Girls Club of Warwick. That's another grant-funded expenditure funded through the Learn 365 grant. And item 15, RAVE. So that's 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15, all grant-funded expenditures. Any opposition to taking it as a package? Seeing none, I'm making a motion to move approval items 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15. Made by Mr. Wiggins?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. Any discussion? Oh, and also seconded by Ms. Hazelwood. Any discussion? Mr.
Chair,
Testa.
thank you. This is for the Rave app. I see Mr. Majaco was in the audience, so I think we need to have at a meeting, we need to show the community, don't need to show the community what our capabilities are, but I think we need to show them, because this is our kids in these buildings, we need to show them what we have, what happens, God forbid, if we have a worst case scenario in one of our schools. When we had this Rave app before, way back about 6-7 years ago, there was actually a demonstration at a school and everything. It was with Mutual Link. I don't think we need to do that, but I think we just need to have something in public so we can reassure parents who may be worried or may not know. I know what we've done at the school level, and it's great. It's great stuff. But I think the public needs to know what the Rave app is. And Mr. Majaco, I want to commend you with the take-up rate you've gotten on people who put that on their phones, because in the past it wasn't as successful, so I commend you for that. So at a future meeting, I would just like to see something that discusses Rave. That's it.
Ms. Tedeschi, can you add to the February agenda a presentation on Rave? Assuming Mr. Majacomo isn't, in Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, or somewhere. Yeah, it's next week. Any other comments from members of the committee? So I'm going to comment on items 10 and 11. That's related to the cheerleaders at Pilgrim. These young ladies, or the team in general, have been working very hard for years requesting these items. The previous mats were very thin and worn out, posing a safety issue to them. I don't think they get enough credit. We recognized them, I believe, last year at one point. They went on to win a state championship. And whether they're Pilgrim cheerleaders, Tollgate cheerleaders, vets, or women, they go to all sporting events throughout the year, in addition to their own competitions. They don't have a spot in our budget. And so I'm very excited to see them getting these items tonight. And kudos to Mr. Heatherton and Ms. Murray and whoever in that office that got grant money for these individuals, because for 2 years now I've been on the school committee, and for 2 years the poor coaches, they've been looking to finally get some new mats. So I'm ecstatic and so happy for them. And my last comment would be on Rave. Grant-funded expenditure. We're in year 2 now of that grant. So I just, Mr. Bowl and everybody else from a finance perspective, please start to plan when this grant runs out, not this year, but next, because that is definitely a software that we need to retain within the district. It is, as Mr. Testa mentioned, it very valuable to our district. So,
Mr. Chair, I have one procedural question.
Yes, please.
It's in response to items 10 and 11. 10 and 11 are the same amount of money. Are these just two documents for the same expenditure? Because one is bid number 25009, flex roll foam matting for cheerleading, which I don't think Ryle recognizes as a sport, by the way, right? I don't think they do. Right?
You're correct.
Yeah. And then number 12 was the actual requisition to 3T Grogan Marciano. Both of them were for $7,529. So I'm just trying to find out, are we just spending $7,529 or $15,058?
Yeah, I believe 10 is just for the bid itself, and 11 is for the requisition.
That's what I thought it was, but I just wanted to bring it up so you know. I apologize. I would have sent it to you earlier, and I forgot.
Yeah.
All set, Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Great. Any other comments from members of the committee on items 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, item 14, discussion action, contract award, curriculum associates, as presented by Mr. Heatherton. Looking for a motion to move approval.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins and Ms. Hazelwood. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item, item 16, discussion action, contract award. All Stars Transportation, number 21150, as presented by Mr. McCaffrey. Looking for a motion to move approval.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Testa.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood. Any discussion?
I have one question.
Mr. Testa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. McCaffrey, I guess. I'm just confused because it says the transportation expenses for McKinney-Vento students from Massachusetts living in Rhode Island. And the email comes from someone from the Brockton Public Schools that would accept your quote. So
Yes.
where are we sending, where are the kids being bused to?
We share the cost. They're coming to us in district here. We have to share the cost. We pay one way, the other district pays the other way.
So where do they live?
Massachusetts.
And they come here?
Yes.
The hell kind of bus ride is that?
I agree with you.
Yeah, okay. I was just wondering. Thank
We're
you.
required by law to provide transportation.
But this is a lot less expensive than using a
This would be a
statewide.
lot less expensive than utilizing statewide transportation, and it has no impact on any of our categorical funding that we receive from the state regarding statewide transportation.
Because statewide charges mileage too, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Any other comments on item 16, All Stars Transportation? Seeing none? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item, discussion action, contract award, Delta Mechanical Contractors, number 21140, as presented by Mr. Oliver. Looking for a motion to move approval.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood and Mr. Wiggins. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Final item on the agenda, number 18, discussion action approval, Warwick Public Schools Virtual Learning Guidance 2024-2025, as presented by Ms. Danbrook. Looking for a motion to move approval?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Testa.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood and Mr. Wiggins. Any discussion?
Just one
Mr.
question for the
Testa.
superintendent. Superintendent, is this just the same thing that we've done before? They just, you renew it?
Correct. It's
No
the same
changes.
format.
Right.
Same questions
Thank
and
you.
planning.
Thank you. Any other comments? I would just be, my comment would be, during public comment, we had one individual come up discussing course recovery for middle school. Mr. Testa, would that be, would the achievement subcommittee be the appropriate location that I could make a motion to move this to for you guys to investigate and maybe come back before? Dr. Schultz shaking her
Yeah,
head.
we could do that. Essentially,
Yeah.
it's a request to apply, to buy Edgenuity for the middle school.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can,
I
because I get
mean-
benefits, but yeah, that's fine.
I make a motion to send to the Achievement Subcommittee the evaluation of course recovery for middle school students.
So,
Okay, made by Mr. Testa, seconded
Second.
by Mr. Wiggins. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0 to send that over there. And then as far as item 18, the approval of the plan in general, any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of passing or approving Warwick Public Schools Virtual Learning Guidance 2024-2025, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We are now on to public comment. Individual comments will be respectfully limited to 3 minutes per person, with public comment not to exceed 45 minutes. Though the content of comments will not be restricted, it is the hope of this committee that citizens, committee members, and the administration alike will be respectful of each other's right to speak, tolerant of different points of view, and mindful of everyone's time. This public comment period is for general comments or concerns. Speakers are asked to state their name for the record.
Hi, my name is Amy Georgitsis. I'm a Warwick resident, a parent of students in Warwick schools, and a teacher at Whitman Middle School. I've been in front of the school committee a few times this past year or so, urging, begging to get our kilns reinstated at Windman School. So I'm here again, well, actually for the whole district, but we were mostly for Windman. I'm here again just to formally thank you, publicly thank you for getting that done for us. And we have a token of our appreciation for the school committee. From the students of Warwick, we meant to do this before the holidays. We didn't get the permits and everything ready to be operational in time before the December school committee meeting. So I just wanted to bring this to you guys today. It's just a little like holiday ornament that the kids made out of clay for you guys from them to show their appreciation. And also just to remind you that the things that you do here impact us every single day at school, and the decisions that you make, positive and negative for us, do make a huge difference in what we do every single day in the schools and what we are able to do with the equipment and materials that we are able to get. So
Thank you very much. And on behalf of the committee, please thank the kids for us, and we appreciate you recognizing that. And we hope you're enjoying your new compliant and safe kilns.
very much. Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Dan Camilla. I knew I had 3 minutes, so I kind of prepared something that I thought would be kind of concise for my message. Before I begin, I hope that I'm back here a year from now giving you a Christmas ornament because you were able to address some of the concerns that I have here for you today. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm here to advocate for my son, Danny, who's an amazing 19-year-old young man with Down syndrome. I've lived in Warwick for 30 years and raised both of my children here. Throughout that journey, the Warwick school system has had its ups and downs, but all in all, I would summarize it that it was definitely a good experience for Danny, as he had many great educators along the way, including so many teachers and staff at Randall Holden, right here at Vets, and finally Pilgrim High School, where he proudly graduated from last year. Upon graduation, Danny wanted to follow in his sister's footsteps and go to college. As we planned for his next step, we were made aware of the Warwick Transition Program here in Warwick that transitions students ages 18 to 22 and their families from school to adult life. At a glance, this seemed to be the best next step for Danny. It was not. As a matter of fact, not only was not the best next step forward, in my opinion, it was a step backwards. In some ways, 50 years backwards instead of 2024. I feel like some of the things I've seen are things you would have seen in 1974. And let me add context to that. His program is currently housed in the Pilgrim Annex, which is a stone building with no windows. He goes to a program at Dave's Market, which we appreciate Dave's Market tremendously, where he is carted off to the back room where he has been building pizza boxes for 5 months. Now, I've looked around this room, and I know some of you, and I know many of you, or at least some of you, know who my son Danny is, and know he's very capable of doing great things, and he has contributed to the city in many ways over the years. He can do better, and I feel like we need to do better for him and for all of the other students that are in this program. To take it further, and this is something I was not sure if I was going to raise or not, but you know, his main educator there, he comes home very stressed every day because of how he is treated in the classroom. He's uncomfortable, and by that I mean it ranges from he tried to talk to his educator on the school bus and mentioned her name many times and was ignored. He was completely ignored, and that whole bus ride was ignored and never addressed. To his educator getting upset, rolling, in his words, on her wheelchair, which is really her office chair, at him aggressively, these are her words, his words, and growling in his face. She growled at my son. So he's in a stone building, and he's been growled at. And this is not, you know, representative of Warwick schools, so I want to make clear, he's had so many great teachers and students and educators along the way, but right now, he's in that building. He's in that stone building. He's going into a break room being isolated, and he deserves so much better. So I'm here today to ask you that you take a look at what's happening in this program, try to find more opportunities that are meaningful. All of these students have unique skills and unique goals and dreams, And I just want the program to, somebody to take a look into it to see what we can do to make it better. Because putting kids in a stone building, carting them off to a break room to be further isolated for 5 straight months with no development and no job skills is not what we expected. I'm going to end it on a positive note. There are several very good educators in this program who are very forward-thinking. And I think there are some restrictions that my son sees in terms of the interactions among the educators that are holding the program back. So I feel hopeful that you do have the people there that can be worked with to make this better. And I just wanted to bring this to your attention, not only for my son Danny, but for the many vulnerable kids in our society and in our city who want to be great and go on to do great things. And folding pizza boxes in a break room is not going to make them great. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
He's very tall. Hi, good evening. My name is Bethany Hogan. I've lived in Warwick for 40 years, over 40 years. I'm a product of the Warwick public school system. I've taught in this district, and I have 2 teenage sons who are students here. You've all heard from me already. Some of you actually got back to me and acknowledged my concerns. To follow what Dan was saying, my son, my older son is in our district's transition program, otherwise known as the 18 to 22 program. This is his first year, so this is really my first opportunity to see how this program runs. I work at the Sherlock Center, I'm proud to say, the Sherlock Center for Disabilities, and so I get to see a lot of great things going on with transition across the state. It's not happening here. After Drum Rock was torn down, the program moved to the annex. Perhaps you've never been there. It's a tin can with no windows. A lot of germs festering in there, no natural light, and they're pretty much on top of each other. That's where they spend their days. It's almost like back when I was in elementary school and they took the kids with Down syndrome and they put them in the basement. That's how I feel right now. It seems an appropriate placement, however, because this is how our students are being treated. Out of sight, out of mind. Because our students don't affect graduation rates, and they don't affect test scores. So they don't matter anymore. No one in this district is invested in this population. The administration is disinterested and disengaged. Unfortunately for the district, a court monitor is keeping score. The administration is clearly unfamiliar with the Olmstead Act and the consent decree that hold Rhode Island accountable to ensure, among many things, that transition services include meaningful and inclusive employment opportunities. Folding pizza boxes in the back of Pizzoni's or Dave's Market, not inclusive, not meaningful. And yet, our students are doing this task every week, sometimes more than once a week. Not inclusive. Not meaningful. More like exploitative. More like discriminatory. More like someone has decided that our students with intellectual disabilities aren't capable of more. But you're all very wrong. Our students have made their preferences very clear regarding where they want to work. They've told their teachers they want to work in gyms, daycares, nursing homes, on farms. And yet, pizza boxes. The program needs an overhaul. It needs leadership. It needs administrators who are not only invested, but are willing to put in some work. It needs school committee oversight to ensure court mandates are being followed. And it needs a district who is proud of its kids and their potential. Mostly I'm here because there is going to be a parent-student advisory meeting at the Transitions program being held Wednesday, January 22nd at 6 p.m. at the Annex. Communication to families from the administration has not yet gone out. I don't know why. I know that the plan is for it to go out, but it hasn't yet. And the population of families that are going to be receiving this invitation, that's who I am. And I know that it requires a lot of time for me to plan to make a night out. I need coverage for my sons who cannot stay home by themselves and who can't necessarily be out at night because autism, because sometimes the autism is big. I will make sure that there is a Zoom option, a virtual option for families who can't get to the meeting to make sure that their voices are heard, because Dan and I, we're not the only families, we're not the only parents with concerns. So I really feel like it's in this district's best interest to start paying attention to this population and stop hiding them away. It's not 1985. Our students aren't going to be silenced. Thank you.
Ms. Necco, before you go, just one second. Ms. Barber, are you going to that meeting on the 22nd?
My daughter's delivering a baby the day before, so I will not, but I will speak to Stephen Carter to make sure that he's going to be there. He will
Okay,
be there.
so Steve Carter's going to the meeting. Mr. McCaffrey, you're going.
To the meeting. And I did speak with Mrs. Hogan this week, and we were sitting down tomorrow to review the draft communication going out. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to the meeting. We want to move the district forward.
Can you do me a favor? Can you get with Dr. Taylor or someone from, or Mr.
We also will have a Google link attached to it, so there'll be two options. One option is coming in person. The other option, there'll be a Google Meet that will be provided to all stakeholders.
And when will we get the communication out?
That'll be out by midday tomorrow, but I had planned on meeting with Mrs. Hogan tomorrow to review it, to make sure we don't miss anything. We're trying to work together as partners on this.
Thank you. Apologies, Ms. Necco.
Hi, Darlene Necco. I know I ran over time earlier. I just wanted to finish up a couple things. I was saying online, the district has posted a PowerPoint for the MLL proposed regulation changes, and on there is a link to go to the RIDE website. Public comment on this subject is open until January 20th. So if you are interested in commenting to RIDE, especially in the area of, I can't stress enough how horrible having to become quote unquote aware or proficient is going to be. I can't stress enough about how difficult, especially our elementary teachers, have it in school right now with all of the different curricula that they have. They haven't even been able to really learn wit and wisdom and what wit and wisdom has, because they've had to follow the Right to Read Act and become proficient. And as I alluded to earlier, if they were doing letters, that was equivalent to a whole grad program. And Reading Reimagined is slightly better, but it's still an awful lot of time. And this is time that people have taken away from lesson planning, assessing their own family life, and teachers just can't do anymore. There's an SEL curriculum called Second Step. That needs to go right now. We need SEL, but our elementary teachers are doing the responsive classroom and morning meetings, and they are acutely attuned to SEL. That Second Step needs to be put on the back burner until they can learn wit and wisdom and keep up with GEMSNet and iReady, and lack of paper for our little ones. There's a lot going on, and this MLL requirement is just going to be one step too far. People are going to quit. They have had enough. And the kicker is RIDE wants alternate pathways to certification. And meanwhile, they're driving out certified dedicated teachers, 20 years, 30 years, whatever.
30 seconds.
If you would like to comment, I have read the entire document about the MLL changes, and there are some good things in there, family engagement, but RIDE has got to start ponying up the money and the resources for districts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Necco.
Hi, I just wanted to comment on the feedback that Bethany and Dan, hopefully I got your name correctly, just shared with all of you about the transition program. I also want to give you a little bit of history, that this is not the first time this has come up. I'm going to be very open that for most of you who are sitting up there, this is going to be probably the first time you're hearing this, but when I first started attending the Warwick Special Education meetings, the SEAC meetings, this was back when my daughter was in 4th grade, and my friend David Gigliotti was the chair at that time, and meeting after meeting after meeting, I want to say for at least 2 to 3 years, it was all about the transition program. That was what half of the meeting was about. Fighting for ovens to work, fighting to have electrical working in those buildings so those kids could get help, trying to fight from the parents to try to get those kids assignments that met with the desires and the abilities that they had. And for the district to be back in that place now, where we're having parents have to come to school committee meetings and to beg for help from the administration, is kind of sad. I never wanted us to be back in that point. The killer is, you've got to realize it's not the parents that are only talking about this. Over the past few days, this, at least to my understanding, a couple of the students have talked to me too. The students have talked to me. My daughter, who doesn't like to talk all that much and says she hates going to any meetings that involves quote unquote adults, is going to be going to the meeting on the 22nd with me. I'm shocked that she's coming out of the house to do this, but it's that important to her friends. So I'm just gonna ask everybody here to please, when we get to that meeting, be courteous and listen. Make sure that Bethany and the kids that are in those programs and their friends, that they're not the ones who have to beg for a Google Meet to go out or a meeting invite. They shouldn't have to do that. They want to be respected and heard. These are kids that may not have the abilities that everybody else does, but gosh, I tell you, shame on, I've had so many times that my daughter has surprised me and these kids have surprised me. I've known a lot of these kids for years. So please listen to them, listen to their parents. I'm sure it's going to be a difficult conversation, but there's a lot of good that can come out of this if everybody does listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Here we go.
Jeremy Langell, Ward 5, two daughters at Warwick. I was surprised when they came home a couple weeks ago to tell me that they didn't have paper in their classroom. I don't know all the details of that, but nonetheless, that did surprise me. And they're in 2nd grade and kindergarten, so I don't always know all the details. But I do know that we have some budget issues. And I just want to say something that does concern me is seeing 2.2 million in cuts, but not really understanding how we got there first in terms of the deficit. And I know that it's coming, so I appreciate that. It just makes me a little bit nervous. If it's a structural deficit, then it's a structural deficit, and we just need to know, and I assume at some point we're going to know what those numbers are. But also to remind us that we can't cut our way to growth, right? We can't cut our way to growth. That's not how it works. So when we're thinking about how to make cuts that have to be made, we also can't continue to compound the problem, right? Which I think you've said, right? We don't put $750K into the pension. Well, we got to do it at some point, right? If we're taking money out of maintenance, right? That's going to come back. We all know this story of what happens when we do that and we don't put it back in. So I don't have an issue with saying, here's how much money we need, right? And And that's an approach too, right? It's not just about the cutting, because we can't cut our way to growth. But again, I look forward to the information. Like Mr. Testa, I saw all the $9 million number and I thought, that's huge. You know, $1 million is $1 million. That's still a lot. But 9 million is big, right? So I'm looking forward to learning more about that. I do, you know, trust you all to do that work. But let's not get into the habit. Let's not head down austerity either, because we know that doesn't work. Austerity doesn't work, right? From an economics perspective, it doesn't work either. So, and again, just very grateful to hear these parents express their concerns. I know we often judge our success by the people at the top, but for me, I often look at success as how we treat the most vulnerable amongst us, and so I think it's always important to keep that in mind. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Jacob, you all set? No, you're good? Okay. Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Seeing none, future meetings, the Health and Wellness Subcommittee meeting and the Fiscal Subcommittee meeting dates have yet to be posted. The Policy Subcommittee meeting will take place Tuesday, February 4th at 4:30 p.m. The next Building Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 5th at 7:30 a.m. The next monthly School Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 11th at 7 p.m. And the next Warwick Special Education Advisory Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 26th at 6 p.m. Being that there's no other business before this committee, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? We're adjourned.